It is hot today. It is 100 degrees or something like that. So I thought I would sunscreen up. Yes, I wear a ton of sunscreen. Sunscreen up and then head out into the garden and show you a few of the things that I do in my Utah dry, hot desert garden to keep it from frying in the 100-degree heat. You got to get the back here and right here. Don't forget that part. And this. So most of my flowers and vegetables, the vegetables have a shade cloth. So they're doing okay because of the shade cloth. It's kind of interesting because a few of them, even with the shade cloth, are still struggling a little bit. That's normal where they're planted. They have a lot of gravel, but the flowers are doing incredibly well, especially my established hydrangeas. So I'm excited to give you a little peek of those as well. When I first moved to Utah, I heard forever that you can't grow hydrangeas in Utah. I grew up in the military, kind of on the East Coast, and so they are a favorite flower of mine, and I was intent on growing them. So when I found the Proven Winners Limelight series, I was just so excited. I don't even know what year I got my very first one. I planted an entire hedge in June of 2011. Actually, it was a little bit before June of 2011 because I was very, very pregnant and I planted a whole big hedge of them. And they are still beautiful, and we don't live in that house anymore. I'd show them to you. And I'm not going to go film someone else's house because that's kind of weird. Be sure that you are drinking enough when you're out in the garden. Water. Drink enough water. I'm going to grab that before we go out. I have a really bad tendency not to drink enough, so we're going to load up. I need to show you what I see of my flowers from inside my house for you to understand. So this is the back side of one of my hanging baskets. This drip line, you can kind of, I won't let you see it. You can kind of see it up there. That little dripper is not working quite as well as my other three. So I supplementally water this one, and I'm going to show you right now what else I am doing, but I have not been doing, that works great for this. I also decided to go off caffeine this week, which I don't know if that was a good decision. Bad decision, good decision, remains to be seen. Now this is the side of the basket that everyone else sees, and it's not horrible, but it could be way better, like this one down below it. So let's get to it. House with so many tripods, it's shocking how long it takes me to find one. Sunglasses are key. Don't forget to UV protect your eyes while you're out here. Now I have this product that I'm going to add to a milk jug. This breaks the surface, it lowers the surface tension of water. So it basically makes water more wet, more liquidy. I love it. I will link it below, and then you can get some too. I just follow the instructions on how much to put in. And by saying I follow the directions, I mean I guess at the directions. Basically. Shake it up really well. Now I'm also going to add a little bit of fertilizer. People all the time say don't fertilize your plants in the heat. I've always fertilized mine in the heat. I feel like they get especially hungry and dry at this time of year. So I do give them a good dose of liquid fertilizer whenever I think of it. I also have a few, let me know if you want to hear how to really grow these baskets crazy. I have a few foliar fertilizers that they're so good. They are so good, especially on hanging baskets. And the nice thing about the foliar fertilizer, we need to do a video just on that, is that you can just come out and spray, and I don't have to get my step ladder out. And I don't have to do this whole process because you can mix it up in a gallon sprayer and just have it ready to go. I don't know why I haven't done that yet this summer, but I have done it many, many summers in the past, and it works out so, so well. While I'm struggling with that funnel, I want to show you my favorite funnels, which these are just made from recycling old milk cartons, and I just cut them up and use a staple. And it doesn't matter if I lose them in the garden because I can just go cut myself another one, and I feel good about reusing plastics. And then I can also make the opening of this hole exactly fit the size of my gallon milk jugs. The cap back on nice and tight. Don't forget that part. Shake it up really well. And then you want to slowly pour this in a little bit at a time. And I will tell you this, I generally go from basket to basket on the same level, and sometimes my boxes as well if the soil's gotten really dried out. And hydrophobic or bone dry, as my southern parents and my friend Carmen like to call it, there's a few edges on these that get the wind more than other sides. And so I will go through and add a little bit of that right in there so it can help absorb the water better. Generally, I'd move my ladder over to that hanging basket, pour a quarter of this in there, pour a quarter, back and forth until the gallon's gone. I usually use the 1 gallon between the two, and sometimes I'll do more than one in a day, but let's pretend I didn't say that. Just 1 gallon for 2 hanging baskets. We've had a lot of wasps in the neighborhood, so I'm being extra cautious because, quite frankly, I don't want to fall over this railing because of a wasp sting, and I probably would too. All right, there we go. Now I'm gonna leave this for a little while, and I actually have a hose up here as well, and I'll come back maybe an hour or two. The cannas are new for me this year in my window boxes, and I've always had these little metal plates to funnel the water back down into my hanging baskets. When it drips, it hits that little plate and then goes down in. But the canna leaves are messing with that system that I worked out a couple years ago. We will see. Now this also needs to be clipped off a little bit, and I might do that today too. We'll see how far we get. I'm also realizing I would love to deadhead the cannas. The wasps, again, have been so bad in my yard and my neighbors' yards too that I've been avoiding them. There we go. Okay, I poured that in way too fast and it is just dripping straight out. So I'm gonna make sure that that falls into this box because I don't want to waste any of the water or any of the products either. That is one reason that I like these pointy hanging baskets a lot, is because the water just comes to a point and I can kind of predict where it's gonna fall and then redirect it where I want. It's such a unique product. It makes water, instead of little droplets falling down, it's more of a continuous line. It's almost like syrup. Honestly, it's so sunny out, I can't even see most of what is or isn't in the frame. So I hope you can see what I'm doing. Now, these guys, you can see that the drip line is working much better, but also these receive all the spillover of water from both of the planters above. I have to be careful on this one because there are a lot of pollinators down in my beautiful double Sunfinity. I cannot believe how gigantic this thing has gotten. It is insane. It was a tiny little 12-inch planter, and if you like pollinators, that's the plant for you right there. I'm definitely going to be trying them in my vegetable gardens next year, but I need to put it in a spot that's not by a walkway so that I can get around and still reach everything without being worried about getting stung. I know all these wasps are really agitated because of all of their nests getting knocked down yesterday. So that's why I've been dreading doing this. Oh, and I poured that way too fast. Take your time. I'll take my time. I chucked that on there as fast as I possibly could, and we're just gonna hope for the best. It'll be fine. Something that I love about these big planters with reservoirs in them is I can just set my hose. It's actually running right now. I just set my hose on it. That's what the coffee table's for. I can set my hose on it and just let it run while I'm out here fiddling around, refilling my water, drinking some water for myself. And as soon as the water runs out, the overflow at the bottom, I know it's completely full. So I just like to let this fill up. There is a little hole where you can pour water directly in, and I've never used it because I like it to go through all of the soil. That's filling up. I got to show you my new pride and joy are these hanging earth planter hanging baskets. I have a video coming out on these. This is a sneak peek. You're getting to see the after before the before, and they are rock stars. It is so dry here and so windy. I can't wait to see how they perform hanging up. I've just had them hanging on the ground sitting on the ground for now. But I would love to get 2 more of these. They're actually commercial hanging basket planters, so I've got to figure out how to do that. Earth Planter sent me these 2, but since I have 4 spots, I really want to do 4 of them now because they are so lush and so thick. These have only been planted for maybe 2.5 weeks now, and the plants were really struggling because I was just, had them in the little plant cemetery waiting forever to be planted up. You know how that goes. But look at them now. One thing you need to know about hanging baskets is, can you see how this is swaying and moving in the wind? Because that means it's too light. It doesn't have enough weight from water in the soil. So it's gotten a little bit too dried out. So what I need to do is water it a couple times and spread out increments so that when my drippers go on later, the water doesn't just go straight through the baskets. My drippers are currently running, I think they're only running twice a day at 9 minutes. I would prefer them to be running 3 times a day at 6 minutes because that would spread out the times. Does that make sense? It gives them some time to absorb the water, so it's not just running down the gaps and the cracks on the side. Now that it's been a couple of minutes, I'm going to come back and water this and then water the other one. And I'm going to do that twice. So I'll water this just a little bit, go water the other one, come back and water this one again. Just to help get the soil mixture a little bit of water so it's not just running off the sides and dripping. This is definitely not the way that you're intended to fill these earth planter hanging baskets. You can see the giant well right there, but if I do it this way, I don't have to get so close to the wasps, and there's a substantial amount of them out right now, as I've mentioned 12 times before. So I'm gonna let it do this way through the top so I don't get stung. It is early August. It probably is time for me to pull the last of the plants from my mini plant graveyard. Does anybody else have one of those where you buy the plants and then they sit there getting watered most of the time until you get them in the ground? No, just me? I'm gonna get those in the ground also, and I'll show you where they're going. If you wanna know exactly how these are getting planted and fed, make sure you check out my Petunia 101 guide linked. I have a very specific way that I grow my petunias and a way that I bring them back when I am mean to them because I've gotten a little too busy or whatever. You know life, we all know life, it just happens. It just is what it is. So make sure you check that out. So see, I felt like I very thoroughly watered these, and look how dry that root ball is. It barely got any water on it at all. Which would explain why they're looking a little sad. So look how damp and moist this area looks. But if I dig 1/4 of an inch below the surface, it's completely dry. I got distracted, so I'm actually adding a little bit of this 1/4 inch, 6-inch spaced emitter tube along this bed. Because why not? 100 degrees, what better time than now? This is not a drip line video, but I'm gonna lay this in here. I don't have any more stakes, so I guess I'm also going to Home Depot when it gets hot today. And I'm gonna just thread this along the front edge of this flower bed because I always want to plant annuals here and it never gets enough water. Ever. And this is right where I look from my desk where I sit drawing every day. There are some weird holes in here. I hope I don't get stung by wasps. But I'm gonna dig this up just a little bit and then pin it down after I get home from the store. Actually, for now, we're just gonna cover it because I want the water to absorb in the next time the drip line runs. If it's not covered, I feel like the water just evaporates out really quickly. Just gonna measure to where it hits the drip line. Next, actually I could hit it right here. So that's where I'm gonna connect in. I always cut it a little longer than I need. I dig it out on both sides. I like these, they will break on you eventually. These are my favorite. They're so much easier for me to use than any other pair I've ever found. And then we'll add a little barb. I like these barbs. I should see what brand they are. And boom. Done. That took me all of 10 minutes and I've wanted it done for like 4 years. Oh well. It's done now. I just want to add the last few of those petunias into this bed. This bed's kind of tricky because it gets full shade right around this time of year if I don't trim these pillar hibiscus down. But then it also gets a lot of sun too, so sometimes my impatiens struggle. So this year I have not trimmed them. I haven't trimmed the hibiscus trees to give it more shade. Well, I've got to get back to it and finish up some watering. And also I'm going to head to Home Depot and grab some more drip line pieces. I hope you found that helpful. Let me know. Leave me a comment if you have questions and don't forget to subscribe. See you soon.